What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to LucifroN versus Wam, the quarterfinals of the $20,000 EGC Winter Championships. We will have on the north LucifroN playing as the Mongols in blue, and down south we will have Wam playing as the Mongols as well on Arabia. Now, these are games that I cast from recorded games because these happened a couple of days ago, and I did cast quite a lot of the games, including most of the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the grand finals at EGC TV. And according to my deal with them, the deal is that whatever I cast on EGC TV, I won't cast on my own channel. So, in case you're looking for the semifinals and the grand finals, which already happened last weekend, you will have to check out the official EGC TV channel where I casted the semifinals and grand finals together with Drongo, and I also casted some of the quarterfinals with Maito. So if you're looking for other sets as well, then make sure you check out the EGC TV channel. I'll put a link down below. Anyways, this is a set that I did not cast over there, and it is definitely something that's quite appealing over here because we got sort of the underdog of the tournament coming in here. Wam01, a Canadian player that we know very little about, basically. So far hasn't really showed his skills in 1v1 tournaments, but he's already in top 8 over here. Whereas on the other side, his opponent is going to be LucifroN, one of the strongest players out there, of course. Has been in the top 8, top 4 of multiple tournaments before. Now, I do not have the drafts in front of me, and that is because there is no official database of these drafts. So I just don't have them right with me, mainly because they are sort of inaccessible right now, or it's very difficult to find them. So we'll just go in with the games themselves. I won't be able to take a look at the home map picks and the civilization picks of the players, but one thing I can take a look at is how many sheep Wam was able to acquire with that con. Now, looking at LucifroN, he has spotted that stable coming up, so he's going to be able to react to that. Both players do have their Ovu right next to their town center over here, but obviously for Wam, being able to collect that many sheep is definitely a great start, because obviously that will delay your transition to additional pastures. Now, when your town center is this close to your Ovu, you can easily start adding pastures early, because if you have your pastures in the influence radius of the Ovu, you will have a faster training time on your sheep. So, especially for a player like LucifroN, having a limited amount of sheep to work with, you could definitely start adding pastures quite early, although he's pretty close to the hunt, so he could move out to the Gur as well. Now, seeing the stable from his opponent, he's going to react with a couple of spearmen. So there should really be no damage done by these scouts. And for Wam, the best thing that he can accomplish with those is probably go for professional scouts. Obviously, this will give him some map control, this will give him some additional scouting information, but ultimately, I would be very surprised if he was able to do a ton of damage with those, given the fact that the opponent already has Spearman out, and of course, given the fact that LucifroN has a very, very compact base protected by the town center. Now, this tournament is played on the January patch, which means that the Mongol tower rushing has been nerfed to a certain extent. As you see, the towers now cost 100 wood each instead of, I think, 70, and Mongols also start with less wood, so their early aggression is a lot weaker than it used to be. They're still a very good early aggression civilization, but not as powerful as before. Defensive tower coming in here for Wam on his gold mine. It's quite a bit at the back, though, which is a little concerning for him, I would say. In the future, aggression coming from this direction could cause problems for Wam because his tower is all the way at the back here. So if you look at the range on this, where's that? Don't they have a range circle? That's a little weird. This is the aura circle. This is not actually the range circle. Range circle should be around here. Now, scouts are being pulled back, but the spearmen are coming out from LucifroN, so Wam is going to have a difficult time protecting this gold mine unless he garrisons the scouts in the tower. That's a pretty clever move from him. Now you see the range circle, and this is what I was referring to. That the range isn't gigantic at this point, but I kind of like how he's using the scouts inside the tower to help out against the spearmen, and the spearmen won't be able to attack those villagers with 4 scouts inside that tower. This also means that he doesn't have to idle a single villager to garrison into the tower. He can just use the leftover scouts for that. He's also going to use the con to scout what LucifroN is up to, might be able to harass that gold mine. As things stand, since both players went for an early production building, a stable and a barracks respectively, it is going to be a rather slow progress towards feudal age. It's pretty common when you're looking at the Mongols. If they go for some sort of early aggression, then their feudal age is going to be delayed quite considerably. This is what I was referring to. That tower is going to be outside the range of that con, which means that the tower can't shoot back. It would have been more ideal if the tower was like here or here, preferably somewhere around over here, but obviously, Wam saw the spearmen coming forward, he had to react to that as fast as possible, and he had to finish that tower before the spearmen arrived, which he did, so at least the spearmen won't be harassing him. Wam is on the way to Feudal Age with the Deer Stones, as you would expect. He's rushing it up with 8 villagers, so he's going pretty aggressive on the age-up process. He also has a Khan here harassing the villagers of LucifroN. LucifroN is going to send 2 Spearmen back to discourage any further aggression, but Vam is going to pull the Khan, so no more damage done here. The other side, there is also 1 Khan from LucifroN harassing the villagers. Soon, Vam is going to have to pull this villager because it's getting pretty low on HP, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Villager is being pulled as we speak. Up north, the Deer Stones are also coming up for LucifroN, but he's got only 5 villagers building it, so he's going to be a tiny bit behind compared to his opponent into Feudal Age. Looking at the resource banks, you got 400 stone in the bank for Vam. On the other side, sort of the same for LucifroN, so double training is going to be an option for both players should they decide to go for mass archers or something like that in Feudal. Quite a lot of gold in the bank for both sides as well. So for Vam, who's got 4 scouts out here, professional scouts is also an option as Feudal Age hits for both players. Looking at Vam, no more production buildings coming out as of yet. And for LucifroN, he's about to hit Feudal Age right now, already dropping some pastures. As we discussed, he's gonna need some of them because his sheep count at the beginning of the game wasn't spectacular. LucifroN up to Feudal Age as well. No production building coming up from just yet. Whereas on the other side, no production buildings, or at least aside from that initial stable, just yet for Vam either. So looks like both players will just be working with their initial couple of units that they made. The Spearmen for LucifroN and the Scouts for Vam. Vam's tower is actually very good to discourage the Spearman aggression. It really cannot do much against the Khan, but it is just enough to push away the Spearmen. Multiple Spearmen taking a lot of damage over here. The Khan could be used to pick off those forces. Looks like LucifroN is going to loop around, trying to see if he can do damage elsewhere, but that seems impossible as well. And it looks like Vam is going to now add an archer range here. On the other side, LucifroN is not adding anything, and that to me makes me feel like he could try to go fast castle here. He's got a pretty decent gold bank over here, and he's still got 6 villagers on gold. Starting to bank up food as well. So oftentimes, when you see Mongol players going for Dark Age aggression, they follow it up with sort of a fast castle style approach. Go for Lancers, Men-at-Arms potentially. The Khan is going to pick off 1 Spearman, a second one could be taken down here as well. As you go deeper and deeper into the game, the Khan gets more and more powerful. So in Dark Age, it doesn't do a ton of damage, but now that you have the hardened Khan, it's going to have a slightly higher damage output, so it takes less time to kill those Spearmen. LucifroN, for now, is going to discourage the Scouts from moving deeper in there, and there's the professional scouts technology that we were talking about. Once again, the Spearmen will charge in, and the thing here for Vam is that as long as those scouts are out there sort of collecting carcasses, the villagers will have to garrison the tower in order to prevent the Spearmen from aggression. But for now, this aggression has been repelled very nicely by Wam. He didn't lose a single unit so far. It's 3-0 on the KD department. Picks off another Spearman, and a 4th one could also be taken down here. Khan is going to retreat here. A bit of a miss micro there by Wam, though. His Khan is being exposed very heavily to the Spearman fire. Ultimately, the Khan is going to survive, and with some archers coming in, the opponent's Khan will be pushed away. But Wam was pretty close to losing his own Khan over here, as Wam is already starting to ferry in the deer carcasses. As you see, in the January patch, deer will take a lot more time to be ferried in because the scouts are slower when they're carrying carcasses. But considering the fact that Vam is starting off with his own patch of huntables, it's right next to his TC, he can already start working on those carcasses immediately. Whereas on the other side, LucifroN is just going for the hunt right next to his base. LucifroN, still no additional production buildings, and that could be worrisome given the fact that now we are seeing more and more archers appear on the battlefield for Vam. LucifroN taking some damage on that Khan, but eventually he is getting away. As you look at the resources, since LucifroN is not investing into any additional army, he is going up to Castle Age. On the other side, though, Vam is thinking about the same thing. Vam didn't invest into a ton of army either. It's just a couple of archers, and of course, he made the archer range. The biggest investment he made was professional scouts, of course, but that's going to pay off rather fast because, of course, you will have a very nice food eco from the professional scouts and the deer carcasses, and the fact that you add professional scouts also means that you don't have to add pastures. So as much as Vam invested into professional scouts, on the other side, LucifroN had to invest into pastures, so that compensates a tiny bit for the big investment that Wam made on that technology. Wam is getting close to Castle Age as well with those resources, whereas LucifroN is already rushing up that step redoubt with 8 villagers. He's going to place it on that gold mine eventually and move that girl away. As you see, Wam is going to spot the villagers on the hunt here, which means that that's going to be a very nice position to attack for him in the future, should he decide to do so. For now, he's playing quite defensive, and it seems he has spotted the stable coming up from his opponent as well. The Khan gets taken down by the town center fire. Bit of a miss micro there by Wam, moving into the range of the TC. Nice reaction by LucifroN to pick off the con. So now Wam is going to have to wait 2 more minutes until he gets a new con on the battlefield. So seeing the stable here from LucifroN and seeing the step rate out, Wam knows exactly that this is going to be Castle Age and Lancers, so he's going to start popping out Spearmen in all certainty. We'll have to see how LucifroN reacts to that, because he could add a couple of Men-at-Arms against those. But for now, LucifroN hitting Castle Age, he's going to start with a double Lancer training. No infantry coming out just yet, and there's only one stable working, which is a little surprising. Usually when you see this type of a build, you go for double stables, and each of those producing double Lancers. Meanwhile, on the other side, Step Red Out also under construction here by Vamp. He's rushing it up with 14 vills. He knows exactly he needs to get up as fast as possible, as the scouts are still trying to find some carcasses here. Looks like most of the carcasses are now gone. There is still a patch of huntables that could be taken, but it's rather close to the base of LucifroN, so it's very likely that LucifroN will be able to prevent Vamp from picking it up, because especially with the Yam speed network boosting the speed of those Lancers, they can just catch up to the scouts carrying carcasses. Vamp might still try to yoink some of those when his opponent is not paying attention, but it's going to be quite a bit of a challenge. Upon hitting Castle Age, Vamp is going to start making Spring Golden placements on those towers, making them quite powerful against those initial Lancers. We also see some Spearmen hitting the battlefield, in fact quite a few of them. There's already 10 on the battlefield. But you're going to need something against the potential Men-at-Arms here, because the moment LucifroN is going to spot those Spearmen, he can start adding Men-at-Arms. For now, he's adding a Spearman upgrade for himself, so he's just going to add his own Spearman, but eventually upon seeing all those Men-at-Arms, or all those Spearmen, excuse me, you are going to see some Men-at-Arms hit the field from LucifroN. LucifroN's got a Blacksmith working for him as well. No upgrades coming out of that just yet. On the other side, there is no Blacksmith for Vamp just yet, as he's dropping a stable now. We're seeing some Crossbowmen hit the field alongside the Spearmen as well. That's going to be a nice combination, and that should be able to deal with both the Men-at-Arms and the Lancers. Looks like we're going to have some Spearmen coming in from LucifroN, and as I said, Vamp tried to take the carcasses, but it's very difficult to do so because your scouts are so slow when they pick up carcasses that even Spearmen, but especially Lancers, they can chase them down very easily and just take them down before they get back home. A couple of Lancers moving in here from LucifroN might be able to pick off one villager. This could be the first villager kill of the game. So far, it has been pretty peaceful, but the defensive tower with the Spring Golden placement will be able to repel the attack from those Lancers. As things stand, Blacksmith is up for Vamp, no upgrades coming in just yet, whereas on the other side, we're seeing improved siege engineering coming in for LucifroN, so he's going to start thinking about adding some mangonels on the battlefield potentially, and that makes a lot of sense. His opponent's got archers, his opponent's got spearmen, crossbows, so really a full infantry unit composition here for Vamp, which means that LucifroN could do a ton with just a couple of mangonels. Another aggression coming in on that gold mine, but with 2 towers garrisoned with some archers, some crossbowmen, this is going to be very difficult to push. It would be ideal if these scouts garrison the tower because they're no longer useful. They really can't bring in more carcasses, so you want your archers, your crossbows outside, and you want your scouts garrisoned in here. But of course, the scouts are still hoping that they can pick up some carcasses, but that seems next to impossible because LucifroN's got spearmen nearby. Another attempt from LucifroN to try and push that gold mine. So far, not a single villager has been killed by either of the players, so both of the players were able to successfully defend their starting bases. And really, despite the fact that there was some aggression, both players reacted to that very swiftly. Looks like we'll have a veteran archer coming in from LucifroN, and he's going to start adding a large amount of archers here. Once again, reaction from Vamp is really fast. The Lancers moving in. Lancers will take a ton of damage from the town center, and with the Spring Golden placement on the tower, one Lancer is going to get taken down, the other one heavily damaged. Simultaneously, LucifroN tried to push in on the right side, but with the crossbows and spearmen, once again, this aggression is going to be repelled. And now, Vamp has a fairly sizable force of archers and spearmen moving forward. And that's the difference between the two players. LucifroN was making Lancers on just one stable, and really, he just now started adding archers. Whereas on the other side, Vamp has been massing spearmen and archers for a long time, and now that army starts to show on the battlefield, scouts will also be mixed in here to absorb the arrow fire, and suddenly, the spearmen will jump on the tower. Archers starting to pick off villagers over here. Spearmen will try to help out here for LucifroN. LucifroN's gonna have to pull all his forces back, but most of them have already been killed during those raids. And as you see, despite the fact that there's veteran archer for LucifroN and no veteran upgrade for Wam, the numbers advantage are heavily in his favor. He's going to deny the gold income from his opponent already, and now you're seeing the infantry flood of the Mongols starting to overrun the base of LucifroN. Wam, he has a blacksmith, so he could go for a siege upgrade himself. In fact, he has already gotten that, so I would expect a couple of mangonels to hit the field very soon, and indeed that's the plan here for Wam. LucifroN currently in trouble because his army numbers are just not there. He's at 7 right now. It really felt like he just wanted to put up some pressure with the Lancers, but he wasn't expecting such a massive counterattack. Wam was quietly building up his forces for a long time, and now he appears on the battlefield with those, and since there is no siege here from LucifroN, he won't really be able to do much with a combination of archers, mangonels, spearmen, because this is just an impossible combination to stop without any springles to take down those mangonels with big mangonel shot, getting quite a lot of damage done on those archers from LucifroN as 2 mangonels crawl up. Springles will be rushed up here by LucifroN, but with that gold mine denied, it's going to be difficult to even afford those springles. As you see, at this point, LucifroN is running out of gold, so he's going to be able to make exactly 1 springald out here. The springald trying to crawl closer as the mangonels are ready to strike. There is a massive amount of damage that could be done here by the mangonels, and that's exactly what you're seeing over here. Villagers getting massacred by the mangonel fire, and a second volley could come out right on the town center's villagers. Villagers will jump into the tower to save themselves as the springald is going to take down 1 mangonel here. Spearman will jump on the springald though and take it down. And you have already seen a gigantic amount of damage done here on the eco of LucifroN. The Lancer is going to get taken down. Villagers desperately trying to hold on to that gold mine. There's a big force of archers over here that's taking down the spearmen, but as the mangonels set up, I feel like these archers will just die here in a matter of seconds. Men-at-arms hit the field as well from Wam. Villagers are all pulled to take down the mangonels. Mangonels going to get a nice hit on top of those archers, but every single villager of LucifroN's wood line was pulled to repel this attack. This is the problem right now for LucifroN. Even though he is going to survive this one, the damage that he has taken was just gigantic, especially that first volley of mangonel fire was just able to wipe out so many villagers. And now you see some veteran archers hit the field, but the men-at-arms will work quite nicely against them. So as long as LucifroN doesn't have a single crossbowman on the battlefield, those men-at-arms will do some damage here. Might even be able to yoink 1 more villager, but it looks like that will is going to survive. So a final tally at the villager kills. 31 villagers is the number right now for LucifroN. On the other side, 56 for Wam. He's also bringing in some relics here, so he's going to have some extra gold income from those, kind of like that. He has the map control, or at least he used to have the map control. Might as well pick up some relics over here. He's also taking the boar, so he's going to have a very nice extra food income. So really, he's leveraging that map control so well. And if you look at the resource income per minute, his eco is just far ahead compared to the eco of LucifroN. LucifroN didn't expect such a push to happen so early. He started transitioning to archers, but he was like a minute too late. And by the time he had archers on the battlefield, his opponent had a force in front of his base. And really those mangonel volleys were the ones that wiped out so many villagers here. Quite a few villagers are also heavily damaged on the side of LucifroN. Crossbow is still part of the army here for Wam, so that's going to limit the possibilities of LucifroN adding men-at-arms or knights himself. Now, it looks like we're going to have some crossbows appearing on the battlefield as well for LucifroN, so it's going to make it difficult for those men-at-arms to be impactful for Wam. And now, LucifroN is counterattacking with a mangonel. Despite the fact that LucifroN has taken a massive beating, Wam has lost quite considerable forces up there, so technically there might be a small window for Wam to lose a lot here, should LucifroN be able to get a couple of villager kills on isolated resources. Like, for example, this hunt could be a prime target over here. You already see springolds being assembled, though, by Wam's forces. Mangonel setting up here was trying to get a shot out on the units building the springolds, but the springolds will get the volley out here, and the mangonel is going to get taken down. The forces of LucifroN are still healing in large numbers, and the crossbows are doing an excellent job taking down the men-at-arms archers, crawling up as well to pick off the crossbows. And you see 2 more springolds are out here, but those aren't really able to impact this battle right now because it's decided by the crossbowmen picking off the men-at-arms, and it's decided by the archers picking off the crossbows from Wam. Suddenly, we're looking at 20 army for Wam, but only 14 for LucifroN. For a moment, it seemed like LucifroN is going to be able to do some damage here and potentially compensate for at least a certain amount of villagers lost previously, but it seems like that's not going to be the case here, especially because on the right side, disaster strikes LucifroN. A single lancer from Wam is doing so much damage, and it looks like LucifroN never really noticed this. all the potential to do damage is gonna go down the drain here for LucifroN, simply because he's not noticing that the villagers are getting slaughtered. This is because he was focusing so much on that fight that he didn't even notice this, and I think he just now realized, and the moment he looked over here, he's going to tap out of the game. You could see that the villagers started running towards the town center, which is a sign that LucifroN noticed it, and he just looks at the dead bodies. He knows exactly he lost villagers before, so there is basically no room for recovery. He just lost 25 plus villagers, and with that, the game falls into the hands of Wam. We'll take a look at the statistics here in a matter of seconds, but we will need to wait for that for a split second, because as you know, for recorded games, the stats aren't brought up at the end of the game. I'll have to open it up from the recorded games page of each player. So hang on for a brief moment as I will get that to you. That's right here. Okay, so villager count. As you see, first big drop, that was basically the aggression with the mangonels. That already pushed LucifroN into a very difficult position. He was down to like 35 villas as opposed to 55-ish, so there was like a 20 villager deficit already. But then this second aggression. And you can sort of sync this up with the military count dropping here. If you look at the position of this dip in the military graph for LucifroN, and compare it to the villager dip, it's basically at the identical spot. So what happened was that LucifroN was microing his forces, and Wam was aware of that. He knows exactly that his opponent is microing a lot, which means that you can send 1 or 2 knights and your opponent might not notice that, and that's exactly what happened. As the fight was unfolding on the southern part of the map, 1 or 2 lancers were able to hit the gold miners of LucifroN, and ultimately LucifroN was pushed down to like 33 villas. His opponent had twice as much, so really there was no room for recovery. In the end, Wam finishes the game with 91 kills and 67 losses. In terms of economy, way better in every single department. Villager idle time, pretty close over here. This is something that you always look at when you look at pro player games. How effective were the villagers? You see, both players had pretty high effectiveness over here. It was more about the mangonel aggression first with Wam, and then that was followed up with the lancers killing so many villagers on that gold mine. With this being said, 1 point is going to be added to Wam, and now we're going to the home map of LucifroN, which apparently is going to be Danube River, and we'll have a Delhi mirror over here. Now, the tournament rules don't force players to play mirror civilization matchups, so I'm not saying it's a coincidence that the players are playing mirrors, because there is obviously more to that. It's just the fact that both players decided to go for Delhi, because that is a very powerful civilization on Danube River. So welcome to Danube River in game number 2 in this best of 3 between LucifroN and Wam in the quarterfinals of EGC Winter Championships. On the right side, you're going to have LucifroN playing as the blue Delhi, and on the left side, you're also going to have the Delhi Sultanate for Wam in red. So why do you pick the Delhi here? It's rather straightforward. If you don't pick Delhi, your fishing eco is exposed to the aggression of the opponent's Delhi player. Delhi fishing ships are able to shoot arrows, and while 1 or 2 fishing ships won't do a ton of damage, once you have like 5, 6, or 7, they can start killing the opponent's fishing eco. So it's actually very difficult to protect your fishing eco against Delhi in Dark Age unless you do something cheesy, or I'm not saying cheesy necessarily, but something special. You can't just fish and then wait for things to happen, because the Delhi player is going to destroy your fishing eco before you get to Feudal Age and get some combat ships out. So one thing that you can do against that is, for example, cross-wall a crossing like this to prevent the opponent from pulling fishing ships, but of course they can still make a forward dock, so it's also not a perfect solution. Wam coming in here with 2 scouts. He has added 1 from the town center, and he's trying to intercept the villager here from LucifroN, forcing it all the way back to the town center. On the other side, Wam is going to be able to keep that villager on the shorefish, which is a nice little extra. Villagers get rid quite fast from shorefish, so having 1 extra villager on your shorefish as compared to your opponent is actually a pretty nice advantage. Meanwhile, for LucifroN, he decided not to go for a second scout here, so Wam is the only one with the extra scout. Obviously, that's going to give him a larger window to collect sheep, to gather information, and potentially harass the villagers of the opponent on the dock. As you see, LucifroN already pulled the villager away from the dock. On the left side, Wam already has a lumber camp up, and he started to research forestry, and the same thing can be seen for LucifroN. He already has forestry nearly completed, so that makes me believe that he started out with a lumber camp much earlier than his opponent did, whereas Wam either forgot to start the forestry upgrade, or he plays that lumber camp a tiny bit later. As things stand, we have 2 fishing ships here for Wam, and on the other side we already have 3 for LucifroN, so slight advantage in that regard to our blue player. So, given the fact that both players have their fishing ships with the ability to fire arrows, there really is no point pulling your fishing ships to attack the opponent's one, because the opponent's one will always be repaired by their own docks, so you won't be able to destroy them. So it's gonna go in a different direction, and that could be multiple directions for the Delhi players here. You can see players trying to add some combat ships pushing the opponent's fishing eco. You could see towers built up over here trying to deny the opponent's fishing eco, although you gotta be sneaky with those, because if they get spotted, the fishing ships can stop them. You can try to just wall off the crossing here, sort of try to play a fast castle style approach, and then either go with the compound of the defender, trying to go for forward walls and stone wall towers on them to secure the river, or you could go for potentially just lancers, try to play this as if this was Arabia. So there are a lot of options over here for both players. We'll have to see which direction they go. Quite a lot of sheep collected by Wam once again. As compared to LucifroN, he seems to be a lot more successful collecting those, and that seems to be consistent between game number 1 and game number 2. Obviously, your main source of food here is going to be fish, but the fact that you have so many backup sheep to work with is immensely helpful. If you get pushed away from the water, or if you just need some extra food eco, being able to add villagers on the sheep is very nice as well. Looks like we're going to have a barracks coming in here for Wam. He already has a mosque out as well, going for efficient production as his first upgrade. On the other side, there is no mosque, no production building from LucifroN. Instead, he decided to add the second scout here upon seeing the 2 scouts from Wam. And he's added a mill. Now, with the mill, he can start researching wheelbarrow. After that, he can start researching horticulture. So there are definitely a couple of positives adding a mill early with the Delhi. As you see, LucifroN almost able to yoink 1 scout from Wam. Wam is going to pull it away in time, but he nearly lost one over there, as Feudal Age is coming in for LucifroN with the Dome of Fate. Whereas on the other side, no Feudal Age just yet for Wam. Instead, he's starting to add a couple of Spearmen. In fact, quite a lot of Spearmen are queued up over here. Makes me wonder how aggressive he wants to go here with those spears. It's possible he's just going to use these to wall off the middle, but we'll have to see about that one. Wam, if we look at his resource bank, he's kind of far away from Feudal Age though, so he's going to delay his Feudal quite a bit. We might see something similar to what we have seen from LucifroN in the previous game, sort of go long Dark Age into fast castle style approach here. And here comes the crossing. It looks like he's going to crosswall this section. Interesting idea. I guess the concept here for Wam is that he's aware that his Feudal Age time is going to be slower than his opponent's Feudal Age time. And because of that, he wants to make sure that the enemy combat ships can't hit his fishing eco, because once LucifroN gets to Feudal, he can get some dows out and start pushing the fishing eco of Wam. Wam, once again, successful pulling away his weak scout from the opponent's one, as it looks like LucifroN is also pursuing with 1 villager here. Wonder if LucifroN just forgot about this vill or what, because it seems like he's moving very far away here. I think he just selected the scout and the villager and right-clicked that scout, and now he's pursuing this, and this is a little worrisome for LucifroN right now, because this villager is getting low on HP, and just a couple more hits from that scout pursuing it, and suddenly LucifroN could lose a villager. Also, some spearmen are coming in here, and really, it seems like LucifroN has forgotten about that villager because it's still pursuing that scout. That is an easy villager kill there for Wam, completely avoidable for LucifroN. He probably just selected that villager alongside the scout accidentally, and he just forgot about it. But it definitely hurts that you lose 1 villager in a mirror setup like this. Spearman now hitting the field, and that's going to help a lot for Wam push away those scouts, but LucifroN is able to yoink his scout, so now it's 2-1 in terms of scout numbers. Spearman will finish the walls over here as well, so it's going to be impossible for LucifroN to cross, and there is our answer, basically. If you wall off this crossing like this, that's going to prevent LucifroN from putting up a lot of aggression to your base, so we're probably going to see some sort of fast castle style approach from Wam. Defensive tower from LucifroN is up on his gold mine, so the Spearman should be taken down, or at least in theory should be taken down, but so far that tower hasn't been doing much, and some villagers have taken damage. Ultimately, the Spearman will retreat. We might have 1 Spearman taken down, but it looks like that is going to survive as well. In the middle, we also have a couple of more spearmen here, just to make sure that there is no aggression coming through in the middle. And it looks like the idea for Wam is going to be a sneaky dock, moving all the way to the right side. He's up to Feudal Age with the Dome of Faith, just now adding a couple of scholars. And if he's up to Feudal Age this fast, it's going to be something different. than a fast castle. He's trying to go for towers here, but this is what I was referring to. Against Delhi fishing ships, you can't really tower like that. You need to sort of sneak it up outside the range of those fishing boats. And now LucifroN knows about it. Looks like on the left side there was an opening here. This is not something that Wam has seen. He either deleted those walls, which would be weird because there is already a gate, or he just didn't notice that there was a hole here. But that's going to make life difficult because now you have a dhow out. It's actually just a fishing boat from LucifroN. It's going to start focusing down those spearmen. The walls are still up though, so it's going to be impossible for LucifroN to take this tower down with units. He will still have a lot of room to work with to the right side, especially these droplets of shorefish should work very nicely. But obviously, that tower is going to be annoying to deal with. Meanwhile, on the other side, scouts are moving up for LucifroN. Some animation cancelling going on, trying to take down the scout of Wam here. Wam will retreat to the range of his town center, and LucifroN will disengage. And it looks like we're going to have some more walls coming in here for Wam. I think he wants to go for a sacred site victory here. This is something that you have seen with Delhi on slower paced maps, especially if the opponent isn't putting up a ton of aggression, which is the case for LucifroN right now. Sort of just walling off the sacred site and going for a sacred site victory. You already see these walls coming up, and you're going to have these as well. And if I'm not mistaken, Sanctity is an upgrade that's going to be nearly finished here for Wam. He's going to start moving for those sacred sites very soon. Looking at the fishing ship numbers, as we speak, we have 11 for LucifroN. Wam's only at 7, so Wam's food eco is much weaker compared to LucifroN's one. It doesn't show in the income per minute because LucifroN doesn't really gather any villager or any food from villagers, whereas on the other side we got some villagers on food like hunt and some on sheep. Here comes the first scholar moving out for a sacred site in the middle. Walls are almost complete, so it is going to be possible for Wam to take both sacred sites over here, and that's going to give him a very nice trickle of gold as well. That's going to be a nice extra boost of eco compared to the opponent. Tower is up now for Wam. He's going to start taking shots on those fishing ships, but as you see, the repairability of the dock nearby is going to negate most of the damage coming out of that. So really, this isn't able to do much here. If there were a couple of spearmen to garrison, that would change things, or even just a scout. Now with the scout garrisoned inside, suddenly you have a lot more firepower to work with, and LucifroN is going to start losing a couple of fishing boats over here, unless he pulls them away to the right side, which he does. For now, his fishing eco is still going to remain safe, as on the left side, the scholar is moving in for a sacred site. Is going to be harassed by the scout here, though. There is no spearman nearby to defend, so there's a legitimate chance that Wam is going to lose this scholar unless the spearmen from the south arrive just in time. Scholar is also going to heal them, so the scout has no chance of fighting back, and indeed, that scout is gonna get taken down, and with that, the sacred site falls into the hands of Wam over here, just like the one in the middle, and with some more walls coming up, it's gonna be very difficult for LucifroN to neutralize either of those, although technically there is an opening here, and as you see, LucifroN is moving towards that sacred site in the middle. The spearman should be able to intercept that scholar though, but it looks like he's not even going for the one in the middle. He's going for, I guess, this one, and this is the only opening, so the scholar is going to pathfind its way all the way around here. Sacred Site victory triggered at 10:42, so from this point on, you have 10 minutes for LucifroN to neutralize one of those. But that's exactly what he's planning to do. He's breaking through the walls in the middle with a couple of men-at-arms upon hitting Castle Age, and he's walking towards the Sacred Site in the middle. So really, Wam's plan here to hold that Sacred Site is going to be short-lived, because that Sacred Site is about to get taken away. He's aging up as well with the compound of the defenders, so we will see some Stonewall towers coming up in the near future. But this also means that he won't have the House of Learning working for him, meaning that he's not going to have the unique upgrades unlike his opponent. And as you see, Owned Blades is already coming in here for LucifroN. So this is going to mean that the men-at-arms for LucifroN will be much stronger than the ones from Wam. So Wam is going to need something different to counter them. He can't just make his own men-at-arms and fight this off, because his ones are much weaker than the opponent's ones. Tower here, trying to slow down the men-at-arms aggression, but as you see, this Sacred Site in the middle has already been neutralized, and this tower is also going to be taken down in the next 1 or 2 minutes in all certainty. Castle Age for Wam is up, however, and as you see, Wam is trying to pull some spearmen here to get some more walls up, slow down this aggression as much as possible, let the tower get some more shots out on those men-at-arms, and it looks like we're going to have crossbows coming in for Wam here. We could even see some elephants. That would be an interesting way to play this one for Wam. as Vam is trying to get away with that relic out there. Pops the Vololo to discourage the Men-at-Arms from killing that Scholar, but now the Scholar is going to have to make a run for it. Looks like LucifroN is just focused on taking down this tower over here, so the Scholar is going to get away with the relic. You already have LucifroN moving up towards the middle, potentially to secure that sacred site for himself. As things stand, not a lot of army on the battlefield for Vam, and we have some demolition ships coming in here, explosives dows, hitting the field here for Vam. He's going to try and get some damage done on the fishing eco of LucifroN that's completely undefended. LucifroN doesn't have any combat ships out here, he's just now starting to add some demolition ships, so he's thinking about the exact same thing, starting to knock out the opponent's fishing eco by adding some demolition ships. With the compound of the defender available for Vam, he can start constructing stone walls with his infantry, and that's exactly what he's doing down south. So he's going to have this section stone walled, and that's going to be a very nice sacred site for him. It's a very consistent source of gold, and it's going to help his eco quite a bit, as well as the fact that he's got multiple relics coming in. So really, Vam has been utilizing that map control very nicely as LucifroN secures the sacred site in the middle. LucifroN also took down the tower over here, killing the spearman inside. So as things stand, LucifroN is slowly cleaning this up, and the next up is this tower. On the left side, though, you have this demolition ship ready to jump on the fishing geek of LucifroN, really. They just need a gate here so you can pass, and then delete some walls so it can go all the way north. Demolition ships are out here for LucifroN. I wonder if he's going to try and blast his way through these walls, or he will just wait for the Men-at-Arms to take down the walls and then send out the demolition ship. And it looks like, indeed, we're not seeing crossbows, we're seeing some elephants. Now, here's the deal. The elephants will have a 15 base stack, which is pretty nice, but they don't have a bonus against heavy infantry or heavy cavalry by default. Once you get to Imperial Age, you can grab the crossbows upgrade, and that's going to give them a lot of bonus damage against heavy units, and it's going to be a very nice firepower against Lancers, Men-at-Arms as well. But in Castle Age, they're somewhat underwhelming against Men-at-Arms. They won't perform that badly because they still have a ton of base HP, and as you see, they can shoot while moving. The Men-at-Arms take a lot of time to close distance as well, but obviously, especially against Lancers, they won't be as good as they could possibly be with the Imperial Age upgrade. Still, these are some highly valuable units over here, and the Men-at-Arms shouldn't be able to do much against them, especially given the fact they don't have a lot of defense upgrades. So as you see, these guys have only 4 ranged armor. Looks like the Men-at-Arms from LucifroN are able to stop these stone walls here, though, so Vam is going to have to make another layer behind. Elephants now marching up to the middle, and it looks like LucifroN is coming in with his Vor Elephants here. Men-at-Arms trying to cut off the retreat path from that Tower Elephant. A Bugla is also out there for Vam, so he's going to try and lure those Men-at-Arms close to the shoreline, get some nice hits out of the Bugla. The Bugla's Ballista could also try to target the Vor Elephant because it would be able to do a ton of damage, and as you see, LucifroN, upon seeing the Bugla on the shoreline, he's going to pull his forces away. Men-at-Arms are slowly blasting their way through these walls, as in the middle some more stone walls are coming up for Vam. His demolition ship is nowhere to be found. I wonder if he just pulled it back over here, ready to jump on the opponent's army, but nope. It's just not there anymore. It hasn't really attacked the opponents either, because you see, the walls are still intact, as more and more Tower Elephants are coming up. Against a mass infantry flood like Spearmen, the response from Vam is going to be a couple of Mangonels, and as you see, there is the first one already coming out. Some Men-at-Arms are also hitting the field, so now Vam is building up a fairly sizable combination of units. He's going to have crossbows, he's going to have Men-at-Arms, he's going to have elephants, and as you see, the elephants are trying to focus down the War Elephants. From LucifroN, siege weapon goes down to the infantry though, and it looks like the Spearmen will be able to get some very nice hits on those Tower Elephants, but as you see, they still are very difficult to kill, and they have a ton of firepower against light infantry. So with the support of the crossbowmen against the heavy infantry and the Bugla, they're able to repel the forces of LucifroN quite effectively. We haven't talked about the player ecos just yet. It's 59 right now for Vam. LucifroN is at 73 though, so LucifroN consistently had a better eco than his opponent did. That fishing eco is just a juggernaut on the water at this point. 3 monks healing that elephant here for LucifroN as well, so that's going to negate most of the damage coming out of those Tower Elephants. And now with the Spearman flood coming in here, suddenly those elephants are getting overrun by infantry, but there is the response from Vam. He's ready to jump on those Spearmen with a demolition ship out here, so he's just trying to lure them close to the shoreline, trying to sink them as much as possible. The Men-at-Arms are also trying to work their way through that line of infantry, trying to kill the monks, but instead the monks just run forward, and that's a massive miss micro there by LucifroN 2 scholars get taken down, and third one heavily damaged at this point, and suddenly LucifroN's forces are on the run. Still quite a lot of crossbows on the battlefield for Wam, as he's thinking about making a forward keep over here. There's one more scholar healing that elephant, but that scholar is also very low HP, so it's possible it's just gonna get picked off, just like the elephant will be. And it looks like Wam's forces return their value a lot better. There is hardly any tower elephants that are killed right now, as compared to the forces of LucifroN. LucifroN's gonna be on the run. On the left side, though, here's a big push coming in here. LucifroN coming in with 5 demolition ships. One of them will pop on the men-at-arms. I don't think that was necessary, but there is still 5 more coming through here. There's a single demolition ship from Wam, though. He could sink that entire fleet with just 1 demo blast. LucifroN's going to detach one of them, and we'll just trade 1 for 1. 4 more demolition ships are coming out. Mangonel setting up as well. The Bugla is going to try to block the movement of those demolition ships. 1 demo will be popped to sink the Bugla, as the demolition ships are relentlessly pushing forward towards the fishing eco. Now you will have some fishing boats coming in here to try and just trigger those demos, split up as much as possible. First demolition ship pops out, damages the dock over here. The other 2 will continue to sail north. Another demolition ship turning back for the dock, only to change his mind, moving to the right side once again. Demolition ship will trigger between 2 fishing ships over here, and the last one is likely going to get triggered right now. Hello? Trigger it? Well, LucifroN doesn't really want to trigger this one, and it's gonna get taken down by the fishing ships at this pace, ultimately sinking 1 fishing ship. So the blockade one with the demolition ships definitely did some damage, but I think LucifroN was expecting a lot more fishing eco from Wam. Wam really didn't do that much fishing over here, and in fact, he's out of sheep, he's almost out of berries, so his food eco is gonna get somewhat troublesome over here. Now the good news for him, on the other hand, is that he's got a gigantic gold income, because he's got both sacred sites working for him, and he's also got some relics as well. So this is a interesting situation to look at, because as you see, Wam's got 63 eco as opposed to 88. Much better eco for LucifroN, but of course the sacred sites and the relics help a lot for Wam to compensate for this one. Elephant's now moving up, trying to sink some fishing ships here, as some more demolition ships are sailing north from LucifroN. He might be able to sink this Bugla over here with the next demolition ship, and that's exactly what he has on his mind. The Bugla will take a heavy damage after the demolition ship triggers. Elephant's still close to the shoreline, though, so you gotta be careful, because there's a demolition ship popping out here for LucifroN. He could sink at least 1 elephant with that, potentially more. On the left side, villagers are chopping through, trying to get the men-at-arms in there to neutralize the sacred site. Do note that there is a sacred site countdown going on right now. I haven't seen where it started, but it's probably around 15 minutes. But as you see, villagers have managed to chop through here, and that's going to let the men-at-arms in. LucifroN tried to get his way through these palisades first. After that, it was impossible to get through the stone walls without chopping it down. But now, with the forest chopped down, he's going to have the men-at-arms neutralize the sacred site, and the palisade was also going to prevent Wam from taking it. So that sacred site countdown is going to disappear. Some more demolition ships are coming out for LucifroN. And now that you're in this position for Wam, you gotta be really careful with those demos, because LucifroN has been super aggressive with them, and your army is very slow moving. You're talking about men-at-arms, you're talking about crossbows, elephants, siege weapons. All of those could be taken down very easily with some demolition ships. Looking at the ecos, as we discussed, food eco is gonna be a trouble for Wam here, because at this point, his only food source is gonna be just hunt. He's got a very small fishing eco, but really it's just a minimal fishing eco at this point. As you see, LucifroN had some walls up here. I didn't even see that up until now. Some more demolition ships are coming in. They will ignore the villager, the man-at-arms, building this wall out here. There is going to be 2 mangonels from LucifroN, though. So even though these walls will go up, the mangonels will take them down. So the influx of demolition ships will be very consistent here. LucifroN will just keep trickling in demos to the other side of the river, trying to see if he can sink some more armies, making sure that his opponent doesn't have a good fishing eco. And really, at this point, LucifroN's fishing eco is just helping his eco so much. Now, slowly but surely, the river starts to run out of shorefish here, and as you see, on the right side, you already have fishing ships derping out here. There is also 1 demolition ship freaking out there, so because of that, soon LucifroN's gonna have to move towards some more fishing on the left side of the map, and that could be troublesome. Demolition ships continuously popping out here for LucifroN. This could be a big hit here. Bam, turns around with the elephants. LucifroN trying to connect that demolition ship, but the demo is gonna get taken down. The elephant takes minimal damage over here, so crisis averted over here for Wam. But of course, he still needs to be very careful with those demolition ships, because there is a couple more coming out. Looks like Wam is going to cross the river, as on the other side, the demolition ships continuously threaten the influx of reinforcements, and this could be terrible for Wam here, because as he's crossing the river, he's going to meet a large force from LucifroN, but his retreat is going to get cut off by the demolition ships, and as you see, infantry popping out right now, mangonel fire coming in as well, and there's a big demolition ship coming in the middle. That is exactly the place where you want to pop it for Wam. Wam utilizing the speed bonus of his infantry, though, rushing through the choke point, and that's going to prevent the demolition ship from popping at this point. The elephants will take down light infantry, and now the men-at-arms are jumping on the mangonels. One mangonel is going to get taken down. Now the men-at-arms will trade shots against each other, as the crossbows will start picking off the infantry of LucifroN over here. Crisis averted here for Wam, because he almost got his army intercepted by demolition ships. Luckily for him, he could pop the forced march ability to rush through the crossing. Quite a few villagers going down here from LucifroN, as the elephants are relentlessly marching towards this gold mine, doing quite a lot of damage as they go. Infantry of LucifroN is slowly getting rid of the forces here from Wam, but Wam has been doing quite a lot of work here on this side of the river. LucifroN is at 106 villagers, 74 only for Wam though, so still considerable lead for LucifroN in terms of economy, mostly coming from that food eco on the water. Demolition ships are still crawling up and just trying to sink whatever is left out of the fishing eco here from Wam. Another 2 fishing boats go down, as it looks like Wam is getting ready for another push, but as long as these docks are up here, it's going to be next to impossible to safely cross this river, because any moment a demolition ship could jump on your army. Looks like Wam is going to keep his forces alive at the southern part of LucifroN's base, and this could be an absolute thing of beauty here. If he's able to move in on those lumberjacks and LucifroN doesn't notice that, that's going to be a lot of dead villagers. We're talking about 51 vills on that wood line out there. Trebuchet coming in from LucifroN, trying to shell this keep in the middle. Some mangonels will be the response for the time being from Wam. And it looks like these forces will just chill out here for some time, potentially waiting for a fight in the middle to distract LucifroN. Now the man-at-arms are crossing though. Mangonels getting some beautiful hits on top of those man-at-arms. First volley of torches will take down one mangonel. The second one could be taken down as well by the infantry of LucifroN. Castle still standing tall though, with no boiling oil on it just yet. With the scholars nearby, Wam is going to be able to heal up the remaining force he has over here, but he's heavily outnumbered currently, and he's going to have to retreat at this point, because there's a trebuchet shelling that castle. There are mangonels coming in as well, and the numbers are just much better at this point for LucifroN. But meanwhile, there is Wam coming in with his force, and that's what I was referring to. Should he be able to hit this wood line, that would be a jackpot, but he's got limited vision to work with. As you see, his line of sight is just unable to let him see all these villagers out here, so he's going to jump on the gold miners instead, and it turns out to be an absolute disaster for him, because LucifroN is going to surround his forces. The men-at-arms getting some beautiful shots on top of those war elephants, mangonel setting up as well, and ultimately this force will kill at maximum 4 or 5 villagers, and everybody else is gonna get slaughtered by the force of LucifroN. LucifroN spotted that force coming back, and he just did a masterful surround out there. Now LucifroN is in a great position, because Wam at this point is pretty low in army numbers, 29 to 86. Stonewall Tower is now coming out here for Wam. He went up with the compound of the defender, and now he's going to start leveraging that, as his dock is set on fire. Some more demolition ships are coming in for him, and I wonder if he's going to try getting some towers up here to prevent the opponent from sailing past that crossing. The keep here still stands, as boiling oil is slowly being researched. With these Stonewall Towers nearby, you can start taking some shots on those explosive dhows, but they're so close to the shoreline that they could just destroy them. So if LucifroN realizes this, he could just ram those towers with demolition ship, something that he is not doing at this point. On the left side, LucifroN is securing that sacred site, so he's going to have one sacred site working for him as well. In terms of relics, I think there's at least 2 for Wam, potentially 3. He's got 2 working for him. LucifroN, I think he also has a couple of relics, because I only see 1 relic on the map. But of course, since he has multiple mosques, it's a little difficult to find it. 1 stone wall in the middle for Wam is going to prevent that demo from passing through at this point. But this keep is about to go down here. Boiling oil is unfinished. There's an elephant knocking on the doors. 3 mangonels, a trebuchet. And the infantry is now moving up here for LucifroN. But there's a demolition ship coming in here for Wam. And that demolition ship will be triggered, killing a few from LucifroN's forces. LucifroN is now in full retreat. Once again, the force march ability was popped by one of the players to avoid that demolition ship hit. It was just immensely helpful, because otherwise all of the infantry would have gone down to the demolition ship. Once again, just showcasing how dangerous those demolition ships are. Even without the Imperial Age explosives technology, this is still Castle Age demolition ships. They're just so dangerous to that infantry in the middle. Big force of elephants coming in here for Wam now. He's also supported by a couple of Springolds, and those Springolds will be very effective taking down those Mangonels. As you see, LucifroN is in a full retreat mode. Man-at-Arms will also cross the river, but these elephants will struggle crossing because there are some demolition ships nearby, so it's going to be difficult to cross the river. Although the Springolds, even with the reduced amount of range damage that they do compared to the release version of the game, they still do quite well against the otherwise low HP demolition ships, and as you see, the Keep is apparently able to hit those demolition ships as well. Some more Stonewall Towers are coming up, so suddenly LucifroN will no longer be able to sail up north with his demolition ships, and what's more worrisome for him is that his fishing eco is getting idled a lot now because he's running out of shore fish on the right side. So soon, despite the fact that LucifroN's got way more workers, you see there's a 40 worker difference between the two players, it's 123 versus 81, a lot of that will be idle for LucifroN, and that's basically the heart and soul of his food eco. That's quite worrisome for LucifroN. He's just now setting up his farming as we speak, but he's on the way to Imperial Age with the Hussar Academy. On the other side, I don't think Wam is imping just yet. He's got a ton of gold in the bank, obviously. He's got the relics working for him. He's had the sacred sites for a long time, so he has a ton of gold to work with, but his food income isn't spectacular because he doesn't really have a good fishing eco, and he's just now transitioning to farms. Big surround coming in here from LucifroN though, and there's also 3 Mangonels crawling up. The infantry is trying to jump on the siege weapons here, take them down before the Mangonels are taken down, but it looks like the first volley of the Springolds will take down one Mangonel. The second volley is going to heavily damage the other one, but the Mangonel will survive, and that's going to help immensely against the infantry of Wam. Wam is now trying to jump on that Mangonel, but that is going to be one Mangonel down, but all the infantry also gone from Wam. Simultaneously though, that was 2 healers healing up the elephants, and you also had some crossbows nearby, so the crossbows were able to do a ton of damage on those man-at-arms, and ultimately, Wam is a massive fight in the middle. I would have thought that... Oh, that's a beautiful demolition ship shot there from Wam, sinking quite a lot of infantry, so I would have thought that Wam was in a bit of a trouble in the middle because the numbers looked very good for LucifroN. Now he's going to try rushing up some stone walls over here. Elephants will cross the river as we speak. Imperial Age is in for LucifroN, but he doesn't have the technologies just yet, and the crossbows are trying to rush up the stone walls. Another demolition ship is coming in here. LucifroN is also pulling his fishing ships to try and snipe down those crossbows. The demolition ship did not trigger, and that means that the walls still stand, so the elephants can slowly cross over here. 6 elephants crossing the river as we speak. Crossbows apparently not continuing on the walls just yet, but this is going to be a little difficult to stop here for LucifroN, especially because he went with the Hussar Academy, so it's not a landmark that's going to give him a continuous influx of tower elephants himself. Goldmine now heavily under pressure by Wam, and that's going to cause problems for LucifroN because the next gold mine that he could access is over here, so he would have to move kind of far away from his base to access gold, and now the elephants are starting to jump on the lumberjacks as well. Suddenly the eco of LucifroN is in trouble because, as we discussed, the eco difference is quite noticeable between the two players, but the fishing eco is running dry for LucifroN, and his gold miners, his lumberjacks are now being harassed. Some demolition ships are in the middle here. Wam is going to fortify this crossing with a second layer of walls. Explosives is a technology coming in right now for LucifroN, but that is a technology that takes a lot of time to research. It's 15 minutes without the influence of a mosque, and that is just so much time. I don't think that you can keep this dock alive for 15 minutes. A bombard is now out for LucifroN here, trying to repel the elephants. Quite a lot of infantry jump on the elephants though, and with so many spearmen, you could definitely take them down unless there are some demolition ships that are coming in to help out. Demolition ships will scare the infantry back to the land. Bombard now coming out though, and with that bombard you could try to snap down those demos. On the left side, you still see LucifroN having that one sacred site, but aside from that, the majority of the map control is in the hands of Wam. Springolds now setting up here for Wam. He's going to target one of those bombards out here. Not all Springolds can set up, but still the second wall is going to finish off the bombards, and now you see multiple demolition ships are ready to jump on the forces of LucifroN. At this point, Wam is playing full Castle Age. He's got quite a lot of resources in the bank, but he's out of gold. Wouldn't be surprised to see him just continuously adding more Castle Age units over here, trying to finish this game in Castle. At this point, his forces are getting repelled from this side of the river, forced to retreat to this causeway. But of course, the demolition ships nearby will do a lot of work. Now, one thing that you could do is get a Xebec out for LucifroN. That cannon ship would help so much against demolition ships against walls, as the infantry once again push the elephants close to the shoreline, but due to the presence of the dhows with the explosives on them, it's impossible to finish off those elephants at this point. Some more archer ranges are being built right now by LucifroN. I wonder if he's just going to start adding archers against the elephant archers, or is he going to start making his own tower elephants at this point? Infantry slowly forcing back the forces of Wam over here. Some hand cannoneers will join the party as a demolition ship will trigger, but he's not going to be able to take down a lot of infantry with him. First elephant could be taken down as we speak, although there's a second demolition ship nearby that could prevent that. And as long as there are some healers nearby for Wam, he could keep those elephants alive for a long time. Looks like the infantry is going to try and jump on the springolds. Hand cannoneers doing quite a lot of work as well. Demolition ship will trigger, killing quite a few infantry units over here, but slowly but surely, LucifroN is forcing his opponent back. As long as those hand cannoneers are not directly targeted by the elephants, they will do a ton of damage against them. Their base damage is spectacular, so they perform well against these high HP units over here. But since they are fairly weak themselves in their HP, once the elephants can target them, they will just kill them, and the hand cannoneers are very expensive as well, so you need something in front of those hand cannoneers. Men-at-arms, spearmen, potentially. Demolition ship will not trigger as of yet, as Wam is just constantly amping up the pressure on this crossing. The elephants are slowly being taken down, but as you see, LucifroN is just losing so much at this point, and those hand cannoneers being picked off is also going to be very expensive for him. As I said, he kind of needs something in front. Lancers or horsemen would probably be the best solution. Probably horsemen, because those are rather cheap. They don't cost gold for you, and they still have a fairly large HP, so the Tower Wall elephants won't do that well against like massed horsemen, and hand cannoneers behind could do a ton of damage. Imperial Age coming in right now for Wam as well. He's going up with... where's he going up? Where's Landmark? He's going up to the Palace of the Sultan, so you see the difference between two players' approaches. The Palace of the Sultan is going to continuously produce Tower War elephants for you. Don't get confused by the icon over here. It doesn't actually produce melee war elephants, it produces Tower War elephants. Demolition ships and some fishing ships are trying to get through these walls over here. As you see, fishing boats will try to get some shots on the Tower War elephants, but really they don't have great damage output here for Imperial Age standards. Demolition ships, on the other hand, could do quite a lot over here, and you see that slowly but surely LucifroN is opening up a gap over here. I still think that a Xebec would be immensely helpful here, because it would just blast through the walls so fast, and it's also capable of doing a lot of damage to demolition ships, potentially even to elephants, as now LucifroN is going to play very heavily on the hand cannoneer department. More demolition ships out here for Wam. Wouldn't be surprised to see him popping the explosives technology as well. But of course, as we discussed before, that's going to take a lot of time to research. Greasehold Axles completed right now for Wam, so he's going to have some upgrades on his siege weapons. How is he doing? Just Greasehold Axles. No roller shutters just yet for the springolds. Given the fact that he's using quite a lot of springolds here as his anti-siege weaponry, I would expect him to pop that upgrade very soon. Right now, the explosive text is still 10 minutes away here for LucifroN. It just takes forever to research without the influence of a mosque. On the left side, everything is peaceful. LucifroN has the sacred site. There's one unclaimed relic down south over here that could be taken by LucifroN. But aside from that, it looks like we have a bit of a entrenchment coming in here from both sides. Neither of them are really willing to push out. At this point, LucifroN is assembling his forces. He's got a lot of hand cannoneers, so if he's able to provide some sort of meat shield in front, which could even be some war elephants now that I think about that, that could be extremely useful against the tower elephants of his opponent over here. On the other side, though, you got 6 demolition ships for Wam, also some stone wall towers, some elephants with some scholars healing nearby, some springolds behind that, multiple keeps with bombard emplacements, boiling oil, so really ton of defenses over here for Wam. The question is which direction this game is going, really, because at this point, neither of the players are able to take away the opponent's sacred site, so ultimately, it's going to come down to whoever is able to break this stalemate, and it looks like the Xebecs will hit the field for Wam right now. As you see, these guys are cannon ships, which means that they do quite well against buildings, but they also do quite well against demolition ships. One upgrade that you really want to grab for them, though, is chaser cannons, but, well, good luck doing that. I mean, look at this. If you think demolition or explosives take a lot of time to research, which is 50 minutes, just take a look at chaser cannons. 2230. That's ridiculous. Like, you shouldn't even start researching that without a mosque being nearby. Now, at this point, you could make a mosque nearby, really, because aside from that, you will never get that upgrade. 22 minutes is such a long time in this game. This game has been going on for 36 minutes. Just think about it. 22 more minutes is just a gigantic amount of time. And that's a pretty useful upgrade, chaser cannons, for the cannon ships, because that's going to give 1 extra range for them, making them have 9 range as opposed to just 8. Demolition ship here, triggering and setting the walls on fire, getting some minor damage done on those springboards, but not a ton so far. Explosives still 1.5 minutes away here for LucifroN, and if this cannon sets up, it could take down the docks just before this upgrade finishes. Now, once explosives is in, suddenly LucifroN's demolition ships will be very, very scary over here. So, if he's able to keep this position alive, he can finish the explosives technology before the dock gets taken down. Looks like, for now, Wam is going to start leveraging the fact that he's got the central area as well. He's going to have a ton of stone to work with, and combining that with the compound of the defender, he's going to be able to make a lot of stone fortifications. Now, the Xebecs are coming in here, getting some nice shots on those cannons, and as I said, the Xebecs are no joke. In general, cannon ships are no joke. They do a ton of damage here. They are outranged by default by bombards, though, and the demolition ship is also coming out here. Demo will trigger, and it's not going to do that much at all. On the other hand, Wam is now going to send all his demos up north, and he could easily take this dock down just before the explosives upgrade finishes. That would be an absolute disaster over here. These demos aren't doing much though, and indeed now they come in, and this could be a game-deciding moment, because losing that dock with the explosives technology is an absolute disaster for LucifroN. And you see, now there's a mosque nearby. So one thing to consider, and I will have to double check on that, is that I believe that if you lose the technology, like lose the building that you're researching the technology on, it doesn't count as a cancellation, just like a standard cancellation of technologies with the deli, because with the deli you can cancel techs and sort of finish them later. But I think if you lose the building, it resets, because if you look at this building, it still says 15 minutes. Now, the good news here is that you got some mosques over here, and that's going to help researching it. It's only 3.5 minutes over here on this dock, but it's being taken out right now by cannon fire, and the castle is being built on the shoreline right now by Wam. Bombards are crawling up here for LucifroN, trying to take this castle down, but with springboards nearby, some bombards nearby, this is going to be a difficult crossing here for LucifroN, especially with those walls slowing him down quite considerably. So he's got to be very careful here, especially if he doesn't want to get blown up by some demolition ships. And as you see, the docks are once again taken down, and ultimately we go back to the position where explosives is just missing for LucifroN. As I said, it was a game-changing moment that the dock with the explosives was destroyed 30 seconds before it was finished, because with that, LucifroN's gonna have to restart the explosive stack, and that would have been such a massive power spike for him, because his demolition ships would have been a lot more impactful, and they would have been a lot more threatening against these shoreline structures, shoreline siege weapon establishments, whatsoever. Now, with this keep up here, for LucifroN, it's gonna be very, very difficult for him to get any kind of ships on the water, because as you see, cannon emplacement is coming up as well for Wam. He's going to take down any ship that gets popped out of those docks very soon. Another section of stone walls coming in. Likely we're going to see some stone wall towers as well. The big question right now for Wam, as I said, is that which direction he's going. How is he going to win this game? Because as things stand, he's sort of keeping his opponent away from the central area, but he isn't working towards closing out this game. He's not working towards the left-hand side sacred side. We'll have to see if he's going to do that eventually, as we're seeing some archers hit the field now from him. His siege weapons are taking down the redocking attempt of LucifroN down south over here, as this keep is also going to get taken down by the bombard for this free bombard setting up over there, and three more coming up. But this keep is going to be very, very short-lived, and indeed, it gets taken down. You see that LucifroN is expanding his network of influence all the way out here to the shoreline. You see all of this golden influence radius. So that's why he's doing these buildings over here on the shoreline. He wants to influence the docks with the scholars so that he can get the technologies a little faster. On the left side, LucifroN getting some stone walls up as well, as you would expect. There isn't really any aggression coming from Wam just yet, but that could soon change. Although knowing Wam, I think at this point, he's just working towards cleaning up those docks and then making one massive push through the middle. For that, he should delete these stone walls, and as I say that, he's going to do that because he really doesn't need a very, very crowded position over here. He just wants to march through the middle, so he doesn't really want traffic jams at this point. Might as well delete those walls over there. And since there is no demolition ships coming in here from LucifroN, this crossing should be rather safe. Hand cannoneers, though, ton of firepower out there, but not a lot of meat shield in front of them. So the elephants can do a ton of damage on them. The infantry, once they close distance, they can do a ton, and bombards are setting up as well, taking down all the siege weapons of LucifroN. And archers, also very, very effective, especially cost-effective unit against those hand cannoneers. And a wonder was made as well by Wam. Where is that wonder at? I'm struggling to find it. Wait, and that's on the side of LucifroN. It's so weird because the overlay said defend your wonder and we are on the perspective of Wam. But it looks like LucifroN is going to make a wonder over here, so he started the wonder countdown. 14:42 to go. That's a lot of hand cannoneers. If you have something in front that's capable of absorbing the arrow fire from the archers, like men-at-arms, you could potentially force the army of Wam back, and that's exactly what we're seeing. You don't really want to push very deep with your army of hand cannoneers because these are expensive units, so you don't want to lose them. But if you had some more men-at-arms supporting you, this could be a great fight. Hand cannoneers should focus down the elephants over here, make sure that no one gets out here alive, because any elephant that gets away alive is going to get healed up by the scholars of Wam. But this was a great fight here for LucifroN. A combination of men-at-arms and hand cannoneers could work very nicely, and given the fact that this wonder, the Great Paths of Agra, is all the way down south over here, it's going to take a lot of time for his opponent to march all the way out there. Now, one very important thing to consider is that you don't have to destroy the wonder to defeat an opponent, so you can just destroy his landmarks and still win the game despite the fact that the opponent has a wonder. Now, the big problem here for Wam is that suddenly his forces are no longer super powerful, and you see, the hand cannoneers do a ton of damage, so they can dive in and start killing cannons even. As you look at now, these elephants have gotten the crossbows upgrade, so suddenly their 15 base damage gets increased by 11 against heavy units, so they are much more effective against the men-at-arms now, and this is where the men-at-arms will no longer be viable as a meat shield unit for LucifroN. He needs something else. Likely, horsemen is probably his best bet, but he doesn't really have a ton of food to work with, and that's going to be worrisome. On the other side, 6,000 food in the bank, quite a lot for Wam to work with, as LucifroN is crawling up on the left side with a keep, trying to get that gold mine for himself. In the middle, the hand cannoneers will still do a ton of work against those cannons. Really, a couple of volleys will sink quite a few of those bombards in this causeway. Demolition ships are now coming in, though, for Wam. So a crossing here is no longer going to be a possibility for LucifroN, and given the fact that Wam has been working on that explosives technology, we could see that being a factor soon. As you see, he cancelled it and he now is going for chaser cannons, but he's got a mosque nearby, so he can empower this building, and it only takes 5 minutes for him to grab that tech. The influx of reinforcements is very, very consistent over here for Wam. He's working with cheap units over here, veteran archers, still missing the elite upgrade on them, but his numbers are looking very good. 98 army, only 81 eco. On the other side, much better economy for LucifroN. He's up to 126, but his army numbers aren't looking spectacular. He is at 52 army right now. Men-at-arms and hand cannoneers once again reassembling here. These buildings are not empowered by scholars, so the production rate on them isn't spectacular, but now you see some stables being there with the scholars inside. You also have some barracks over here that have scholars in them. Obviously, you want to have as many buildings empowered by scholars as possible because you want to increase your training abilities as much as possible. As I said, any elephant that gets out of that combat is going to get healed up by the scholars over here. Look at that. That is 8 scholars over here healing up these elephants. It's going to be very difficult to take those elephants down even. Even with the firepower provided by the hand cannoneers, it's going to be difficult. So I feel like you need some more firepower here for LucifroN, or some more meat shield in front of those hand cannoneers, because so far this army isn't really convincing me. He's up to 70 right now, but where is it? I really can't see it. There are some villagers moving to the right side over here. This actually is an open wall here. As you see, the villagers can move all the way up there, but really, on the left side, there's minimal aggression going on. The central part is what's interesting because we have villagers being pulled. The keep is being placed in the middle here. The Hussar Academy is under fire. That's one of the 4 landmarks that Wam needs to destroy to knock his opponent out of the game. There's the House of Learning, there is the Stirring Town Center, and there is the Dome of Fate. So for Wam, he doesn't need to push the Wonder here all the way down south. He needs to push this angle because taking down all 3 of these landmarks will win him the game, and that's something that he knows as well. only 2 bombards in his army, so his opponent, LucifroN, is gonna have to focus down the bombards as the #1 priority, making sure that his opponent isn't able to take down buildings rapidly. Hand cannoneers will set up behind the men-at-arms, and they will do very well against those elephants, as the elephants now march in. Quite a lot of hand cannoneers being mixed in here by Wam as well, as a keep on the left side is also being constructed. The elephants still soak up a lot of arrow fire, and you just get the feel that all those archers being so cost-effective, taking down those expensive hand cannoneers, just grind down the forces of LucifroN so much. LucifroN currently sitting at 64 army, consistently rebuilding his numbers. He's not losing population, and it looks like he might be able to hold this one, but now the meat shield is disappearing from his army. He's gonna have to regroup at the back of his base, still 10 minutes away from a wonder victory, and this is 1-0 for Wam in a best of 3, which means that if LucifroN loses this game, he's out of the tournament. On the right side, a keep is up here to try and hold off these forces, but it's not going to do that much against multiple bombards, elephants, and so many healers nearby as well. Having 7 scholars healing those elephants is definitely impactful. As you see, LucifroN is also going to pop out his own scholars to heal up his army, but they are way less effective when used on low HP units like hand cannoneers, because these hand cannoneers just die so easily to the arrow fire, the cannon fire whatsoever. Hand cannoneers will mass up in this one big choke point, and the men-at-arms will try to jump on the archers. There's only 1 tower elephant here, so suddenly those men-at-arms will be very effective, because there is not a lot of armor-piercing units over here for Wam. He's got a couple of hand cannoneers mixed in here, but these men-at-arms are doing their best over here, holding off the forces of Wam. 9 minutes on the clock. 50 army right now on the battlefield for LucifroN, 107 though for Wam. So still 2-to-1 is the army ratio, and with the help of this keep, with the help of the bombards, the springles, and the arrow fire, slowly LucifroN is getting forced back. This elephant is soaking up a lot of arrow fire, but the big thing here is just pure numbers and cost efficiency. The hand cannoneers are needed for LucifroN to take down the elephants, but the hand cannoneers will struggle mightily against the archers. Archers, very cheap and cost effective against hand cannoneers, so you can just replace them in seconds, and that's exactly what you're seeing. A never-ending flood of archers coming from the side of Wam here. Whereas on the other side for LucifroN, he's running out of gold, which means replenishing those hand cannoneers is going to be very difficult, and he's just so far away from getting any kind of horsemen on the battlefield. Horsemen would be immensely helpful here because his opponent doesn't really have any anti-cavalry units over here, but now a keep is being placed right next to the opponent's base, and that's the 3 landmarks that he needs to destroy. You don't need to destroy the wonder if you can destroy those landmarks. This is a last hurrah here from LucifroN, jumping on the archers of the men-at-arms, but with so many healers nearby, so many cannon fire, villagers are being pulled for LucifroN as well to try and take down, but there is really just too much firepower to deal with, multiple keeps, archers nearby. LucifroN only has his hand cannoneers left. He looks like he might be able to stop this keep, and indeed he does. The keep is stopped at like 99% here, but ultimately the next wave should be able to finish off LucifroN. He's out of gold entirely. He's at 54 army, and his opponent is still at 115. Wam is barely losing numbers, whereas his opponent's army is gradually getting smaller and smaller. The archers are taking very cost-effective engagements against those otherwise very expensive hand cannoneers, and so many bombards. They'll be able to take down these production buildings, they will be able to take down landmarks. There is just no way that LucifroN is able to hold this position for 7 minutes unless a miracle happens. But just look at the influx of reinforcements across the map. It's a never-ending flood of men-at-arms, archers. Wam knows that there's blood in the water. He knows exactly that he just needs to press on and just overrun his opponent with his infantry. His men-at-arms are slightly weaker than the opponent's men-at-arms because he doesn't have owned blades, but at this point it's all about having that meat shield in front, and those scholars healing also contribute a ton. Villagers are being pulled to make this castle happen, and that's going to provide some extra firepower here as well for our red player Wam, and he's just absolutely annihilating the force of LucifroN. LucifroN is dropping in population at a dramatic pace. He's down to 30 army. Bombard setting up here, setting the House of Learning on fire. The starting town center is next, and it will be followed by the Dome of Fate. And as I said, if you lose all those landmarks, you're out of this game regardless of the status of your wonder, and LucifroN knows that as well. LucifroN is going to tap out, and with that, Wam01 moves into the semifinals of EGC Winter Championships. A massive upset, if I may say so, because not a lot of people expected Wam to even get into the top 8, let alone take down LucifroN. We'll take a look at the statistics of that game in a matter of seconds, but as I said, it is from recorded games, which means that we'll have to open that up again. Wam played really well in this game. I think ultimately it came down to his army being a lot more resource effective. So throughout the game he had ranged elephants that were very difficult to kill, so LucifroN had to sacrifice so many infantry units to take them down. Wam had the relics working for him for a long time as well, which obviously contributed very heavily as well. And of course, he had the 2 sacred sites working for him for a long time, although by the end of the game we had 1 sacred site for each player. But the key thing was that his army was just so effective when it comes to the return of the investment. The elephants were hard to kill, so you didn't really lose a lot of resources in every fight. And after that, he started adding the archers, which were just super cost effective against the hand cannoneers. So looking at the stats over here real quickly, villager count was way better in this entire game for LucifroN. His economy in general was much better, but remember that LucifroN also ran out of fish at the northern side of the map, so he had to start adding farming eco, whereas Wam could build that farming eco up over time. LucifroN suddenly had to add a bunch of farms, and obviously that meant that he couldn't spend that wood elsewhere. So there was a big power spike in the middle of the game for Wam, where LucifroN ran out of fish, and Wam was able to turn all of his resources into army already because he already had his farming eco set up, whereas LucifroN suddenly had to start adding farms, so he couldn't really build up his army numbers. Imperial Age was better here for LucifroN, but he really couldn't leverage that advantage over his opponent, and ultimately got overrun by superior numbers. As you see, numbers were rather close for a long time, but the resource efficiency starts showing over here. This is where LucifroN is adding hand cannoneers, each of them costing 100 plus food and gold, whereas on the other side, these forces mainly consisted of archers supported by some elephants. So you had some very expensive, hard to kill units supported by some very cheap, very cost effective units, and that combination worked out better than the hand cannoneer man-at-arms composition of LucifroN. In the end, 600 kills to 473, that's with 35 buildings destroyed for Wam. Looking at the ecos, you see a gigantic difference between the 2 players, especially in the food department, 30,000 more food for LucifroN. That is how effective Wam was able to be. Really, nothing shows more the efficiency of his army than these stats over here. His opponent had way more resources to work with, yet he was still able to grind down his army and get a very positive KD as well. And with that, Wam moves into the semifinals over here. His first semifinal showing in a major Age of Empires 4 event.